Today I'm going to show you how to mock up a board to try a few different styles of faux finishing out before you go to your project. This will become two nightstands, pending a tool. So first I need to clean up the space. I'm going to create 10 different faux wood effects, and a couple of them are very similar to restoration hardware. One's very much like Pottery Barn. And then there are a couple that I think are just terrible, but that's okay. That's part of the experimentation. First, I need to clean this desk, which is going to take more effort than I would care to put into it because of pledge. When you put pledge on wood furniture, a waxy buildup can form that makes it really hard for paint to stick. And that buildup is silicone. It can hide imperfections in the wood without treating it, and that buildup, it's rubbery, slippery, and can soak in. Getting it out after years of use is a challenge, and this Dawn and water combination is not going to cut it. I think this is actually the first time Dawn and water has failed me. But that's okay. I keep pulling back the white rag and more's coming off, but I can see the water is beating on the table in a strange way, which is how it's an indicator that pledge is the problem. What I did not find problematic was the cost of this table. It was $20. I am happy to report the sticker is very sticky and takes me a minute to get off, but what I'm going to come back with to clean it is fuel. The fuel, which is alcohol, denatured alcohol, I should have worn splash goggles and probably other protective gear. That window is open for what it's worth. I have protected my hands, and I'm going to wipe this over and over again, and it's going to keep coming back with those oils. Because the pledge has clearly been involved so heavily in this piece of furniture, I'm going to use shellac, which I likely would have anyway, or I know I would have anyway, to avoid wood tannins. But the shellac will serve dual purposes this time by helping prevent leaching or bleed through of the wood, and also by helping to allow adhesion even if the silicone layer remains. And while I think I did a fairly good job, I cannot guarantee that. I'm going to go ahead and tape off the middle section of this desk. Later, the desk will be cut into two nightstands, and the center section will have no purpose. So I'm going to use it to attempt a few different faux wood finishes. It's a great use of the middle of the table. Before I finish doing that, I'm going to be cutting out a few things real quick just to show you. My daughter got me these stickers, and my boyfriend gave me this enormous card, which I liked it, and I thought you might also click like. I did a craft project about it. All right, back to the furniture. So the shellac that I'm going to put on it will help prevent any silicone that remains from the pledge from causing problems with paint adhesion. This technique of faux finishing, first in this instance, we want to go ahead and put on a layer of shellac all over. But this technique is one that as far as I know, I'm the only one that's done. And the first time I did it was about a year ago. I wanted to make sure it had staying power before I would suggest anybody else use it, because there is some dilution of paint and questionable behaviors in how to do it. It has stood the test of time very well. If you saw my last video, the drawer fronts on those nightstands were the faux finish I created a year ago. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take 5 different kinds of paint and 5 little containers, and these are in all different colors. I'm going to protect myself because I'm about to get kind of messy with the paint. And I'm going to mix into each one of these containers, I'm going to pour 1 ounce of a medium water-based poly stain, a medium, I think this is Mission Oak. 1 ounce in each of these 5 goes the water-based polyurethane stain. Then in each one of these goes a different color, 2 ounces of different paints. This pink one is going to end up being my favorite, certainly. So the other ones that I'm using, this is going to be a gray, and I make sure to stir each one, and as I said, it's a 1 to 2 ratio is my combination. You could actually use a lot less paint and polyurethane than I chose to here, but I plan on using it again and again. So for my purposes, making this much of it was just fine. The yellow looks exactly like mustard, and it has the consistency of mustard. I feel like I'm just putting mustard into the cup right now. The last one's probably the most boring. It's just a basic brown with kind of some clay look to it, and that's what I want it to be. The others have more interesting effects than the brown, but the brown is certainly useful. Added to all this is going to be a Floetrol. A little less than an ounce is going into, or probably half an ounce, sorry, is going into each one of these cups. And that will reduce expand the dry time so that when I'm working on these finishes, I will have some open time where I can play with the effects before it's dried. Now, if you see other videos showing you faux wood effects, you're going to see gel stain over and over and over again. And they'll make it really clear that you need to wait several days and that you have a lot of open time, a lot of time to work, so errors are perfectly okay. The way that I do it does not, oh, look at those pretty colors. The way that I do it does not allow for as much open time, and it does mean you can move forward with the project more quickly. So now I have 5 little containers. I'm going to put on the first 2 panels that brown with polyurethane combination, but I'm only going to do one at a time because, as I said, there's not a lot of open time that I have in which to work before these are going to dry. And the first pass that I do is with a faux wood graining tool, and I don't really like the look of it. So I'm going to go ahead and brush that out again. You may be able to tell there's already some drag that's happening there. So if you decide to do this, you do need to be aware that unlike gel stain, you don't have that much time. The second panel I'm going to do without using the wood graining tool and using what you'll often see in Pottery Barn faux finish videos, the hard bristle brush that creates lines in it that really resemble wood up to a point, but also at this point, this effect has been taken on by so many major retailers like Restoration Hardware and Pottery Barn, all of them really, that it is a wood-like effect, but it's more of a design unto itself, and I think it's really pleasing the way that it looks. It has depth like wood does without the lack of uniformity, though it is not entirely uniform, so it can help cover errors in older furniture, which is why faux finishes can be so perfect for older furniture. Not to mention the fact that often the colors of old furniture are not what we want today. They're usually much darker or have more red or yellow hues to them than anyone's interested in right now. The bottom panels I'm going to do in lighter colors. This one that is something of a peach at this point, I'm going to do in that similar Restoration Hardware, Pottery Barn, whatever you want to call the faux wood finish type, using the same method that I did in the panel before it, only that one was, of course, in the darker brown and not peach. I'm going to take this panel and I'm going to turn it into 2 different examples. One is going to be the linen finish look, and then the other side I'm going to keep as the standard Pottery Barn finish that you may be well aware of if you enjoy these kinds of videos. At this point, there are a number of different tutorials on how to do that, and so part will be the linen look and part will be the Pottery Barn like finish. I'm gonna roll out the kind of hash marks that go in the opposite direction and keep one side all going in one direction. It's also called a jean look. It can be interesting, but I don't know about it so much really. So this is now the polyurethane stain mixed with gray and Floetrol. And on this panel, I'm also going to be using the wood graining tool. I'm going to be using a smaller wood graining tool for a slightly different effect. and it pulls up quite a bit of the paint so that you can really see what's going on underneath. That kind of high contrast is not necessarily what we want, and the first dry time is about an hour before I can go back, and so far that one doesn't look very good. I feel like the one in the center there is pretty much done. If I wanted it to be, I could have easily stopped. And the linen-like finish, I'm not exactly where I want to be, but I'm getting there. The one where I have the, well, now I'm moving right along. The one at the top, I'm going to put the, it was the one mixed with yellow, so this is the yellowish polyurethane and stain and Floetrol combo, but it's not going to have the effect that I want. It is providing complete coverage, which is kind of pointless if I already went over it with the wood graining tool. So I'm going to wipe it back, and I'm trying to do something of a wood wash or a paint wash on this. Not that I can do that exactly, but it's the effect I'm going for. It'll take a few passes for that to work. Again, the same paint on the second panel, and again, it is providing more coverage than is okay for me. As I said, the working time is limited, but luckily it's water-based, and so water can help remove a big error like a couple of ones that I made. Now, moving on to this third panel, I'm going with a chip brush to create some dimension here. And the chip brush is not usually recommended for most painting jobs. It's one of the lower quality brushes, but for faux finishes, they can be really useful. And in this specific panel, which will turn out to be my favorite, it worked very well. And you just want to try to keep an eye out for any of the little bristles coming off. Because they're inexpensive, the bristles may come off. And while you don't want them in your finish, it's not the worst thing in the world if a couple of them end up in there. You especially want to make sure that they're going with the grain if you're going to have some. So I am going back to soften the lines of this top panel, and it's starting to look a little more respectable as far as a faux wood goes. The fun time I had with the yellow and green is hard to overstate. I had a huge incident with the yellow paint. I got it from Habitat for Humanity, and on my drive home, apparently it was open, though it had been a brand new can of paint. It poured all over my front seat of my convertible and onto the floorboard, onto my clothing, onto my glasses, my purse. Anyway, now back to green, but that mustard color I am very familiar with, and some of it's also on my driveway. But that's okay. Habitat for Humanity is a fantastic place, and I will return again and again. I'm using an additional layer of the peach color because I feel like this is really just too much. And the green is kind of making it look like pine that you would get for construction. Nothing you want as a wood finish, so I'm playing, I'm learning, and I'm learning that I don't like that one. You know, you can only watch so many tutorials on how to do faux finishes before you decide to just try it yourself and try a few different techniques and see what works for you. Doing them on a board like this can be incredibly useful because, and if you record it yourself, you'll be able to see exactly what you did so you don't forget, which is part of why it's really useful to record these videos, and probably a lot of why there are several of them available online. I'm starting to like the look of the bottom panel in a way that I hadn't before, and I add a little texture with shop towel. The scraper of the wood graining tool that I had used, I do not like the lines that are in it. You'll see those closer up a little later. The yellow that I'm using will get me to a point eventually where I create a finish on that panel that is very much like Restoration Hardware's natural pine finish, I believe that's what it's called. And the bottom panel there that you see me working on now, the brown really is going to become something that I like, and in hindsight I wish I had added another layer of that polyurethane stain combo. It gets pretty close to the coffee oak that Restoration Hardware has as one of their finishes. But if I had gone one step further and just had a little bit more of that poly and stain combo only without any of the paints, I think that the bottom panel would have looked fantastic. The top panel's not going to be anything to speak of, in my opinion. But if you like it, you now know how to do it. So there's that. I'm also going to try the polyurethane and stain combo on about half of that panel that has the yellow and green. And I think that what I end up with is at the end, oh, I love that Sausalito Pottery Barn. It's so fantastic. It's the one I'm going to go with for the next project. I don't like it with the hatch marks on that side, but I really love it on this side. And then the natural pine, I believe, is what Restoration Hardware has. That's just as close as I think it gets. The other parts of this board or panel I don't think looks so great, and the top panel, I don't think either of those options would be preferable. But the Sausalito finish, I mean, it's right there. And the natural pine from Restoration Hardware, like I said, the bottom, more stain next time. I'd be curious to know if you like or dislike any of these in particular. If you like the video, that'd be even better. I will show how to turn that desk into 2 nightstands soon.